Support for this program is provided by Roy O. Martin. Based in Alexandria, wood products company Roy O. Martin is proud to fulfill our founder's legacy in supporting the social, educational, and cultural needs of our local communities. Learn more at royomartin.com. The Louisiana Lottery is proud to join LPB in honoring Louisiana Legends. Contributing over $4 billion for K-12 public education, the lottery is giving Louisiana a reason to smile. And by Willis-Knighton Health System, caring for our patients and communities for 97 years, with technologies for health and wellness, heart, cancer, orthopedics, birthing, and more. Willis-Knighton, always here. And by Acadian Companies and Acadian Ambulance Service, celebrating 50 years of saving and protecting lives in Louisiana. Information at acadian.com. With additional support from the Doré Family Foundation Fund, Scotty Moran, and Richard and Elaine Zuschlag.
My father loves problem solving. He looks at a problem in the most in-depth way of anyone I've ever encountered.
And he's a Renaissance individual, a cut above all the rest that I've met as a scientist. And my life has been enhanced by knowing Dr. Stephen McGuire.
I know that his work ethic and the way he approaches family, his scholarship, has been just wonderful examples for me. And he really sets that standard high.
Stephen C. McGuire entered the world on September 17, 1948, the third of 8 children. His parents, Harry and Ruth Audrey Barsock McGuire, always emphasized that the way to a better life was through education, though at that time, schools were segregated by law.
My father grew up in the Treme in New Orleans in the 1950s, and against all odds and obstacles became a professor of physics at an Ivy League institution.
From an early age, Stephen excelled in school and graduated valedictorian of his class at Joseph S. Clark Senior High School. He was the first in his family to graduate high school. He earned a 4-year academic scholarship at Southern University and A&M College, where he majored in physics and minored in mathematics. Stephen graduated magna cum laude and continued his education with a master's degree in nuclear physics from the University of Rochester and a PhD from Cornell University in nuclear science.
My dad is the embodiment of the highest standard. So whatever it means to do your absolute best, pull out all the stops in the service of one particular worthy goal. That's my dad.
In 1982, Stephen joined Alabama A&M University's Department of Physics and Applied Physics, where he began research with NASA. 7 years later, in 1989, he became the first African-American faculty member at the Endowed College of Engineering at Cornell University. However, Ithaca, New York is a long way from the Bayou State. It was a desire to return home that brought Stephen back to Southern University in 1999. As chair of the Department of Physics, he set out to make a difference in the lives of young people in his community, the state, and beyond.
And 90% of the young people who attend there are first-generation college attenders. And that's really a transformative experience for them to be able to attend the university and have their futures opened up to them.
It was during this time that Stephen began his critical role as the LIGO Scientific Collaboration Principal Investigator for Southern University. He considers work with LIGO, the Laser Interferometer Gravitational Wave Observatory, to be one of his greatest achievements.
He was one of the hundreds of scientists on the paper that established the existence of gravitational waves, which was Einstein's last major prediction that didn't have experimental evidence until they found it. And if that wasn't enough, he single-handedly made sure to involve Southern University in this international gravitational wave experiment, and he spearheaded the education center attached to it.
The LIGO project won a multitude of awards, most notably the Nobel Prize in Physics in 2017.
The thing that I really admire about Steve in all of his awards, that is he's an extremely humble person.
It's a legacy Stephen and his wife, Dr. Sandra McGuire, have passed on to their two daughters. Dr. Carla McGuire Davis is a department chair at Baylor College of Medicine, and Dr. Stephanie N. McGuire is an author and mezzo-soprano in Berlin, Germany. The McGuires have 4 grandchildren.
Hi, I'm Robin Merrick, and we're here with nuclear physicist and physics professor emeritus and 2022 Louisiana Legend, Dr. Stephen C. McGuire. Hello, sir. So very glad to be here at the famous LIGO Center out in Livingston.
It's my pleasure for having you. Thank you so very much for coming.
Yes, we are glad to be here. And first, we're just going to start at the beginning, Dr. McGuire. What was your childhood like?
I had a very happy childhood. I grew up in the Treme neighborhood of New Orleans, Louisiana. There was a relatively large family of 8 children. Wow. I was third in the sequence. Dad worked outside the home and Mom worked inside the home, and together they were a team. And I can truly say that they did everything that they could in order to give us a happy, safe childhood. It was wonderful. There were 4 boys and 4 girls, and you might imagine that there never was a dull moment in the house.
I would imagine, indeed.
Yeah, right.
Indeed. So speaking of your parents and their real push for education with you, I know they encouraged you along the way. Tell us your most memorable, I guess, memory of what your parents did to really instill in you this drive for education.
Well, there were a few things I would mention, actually. One is that they instilled in us you always kept God first in your life. That was one thing. The other thing was that they emphasized getting your education. And it was something that they just instilled in all of us. I didn't know all of the details as a youngster, of course, but later on, of course, I realized that they grew up in communities, my mother in Mississippi and my father in Bayou Lafourche, Louisiana. They grew up in communities where they didn't have access to education beyond, say, the 8th grade. And so they knew the limitations that placed on people's lives. And they just worked, they did everything they could. They committed their lives to providing a better life for us. And that meant equipping us and giving us a value for education, no question.
What led you to science? When did you realize that science was your thing?
Even before I knew what science was, what I knew is that I had an insatiable desire to understand the physical world around me. Some things were large, some things were small. There were animals that I would see out in the bayous and whatnot, and it all worked together in a way that had a certain completeness to it. But what made it work that way always fascinated me.
Wow.
I mean, in looking in the nighttime sky, some things were large, the moon sometimes was very large. Then there were stars. Just one thing after another, I always pondered, why was it like that? I didn't say much about it, and it wasn't until I indeed got access to certain reading materials that I began to understand what it was all about, so to speak. And I'll mention one other thing. I graduated valedictorian of my high school class, and that was Joseph S. Clark Senior High School in New Orleans.
So it started well before college, yes.
And as a matter of fact, I received a 4-year academic scholarship to study physics at Southern University in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. That taught me the lesson that, having a desire to learn indeed could open up doors for you. Here it is, just my interest in developing myself through learning, in fact, allowed me to pay for my college education. And you mentioned Rochester and Cornell also. Well, it turns out that that same desire allowed me to pay for my graduate education as well. So having been told at Southern that, gee whiz, what do you want to do with this physics degree? I was advised that, you have to get a PhD in order to be able to do physics. And so it was that advice and my drive to learn more, which enabled me to actually achieve those things. And all that was driven by a deep faith in the Lord, that somehow, we didn't know all of the answers, but we could work it out some kind of. You would figure it out.
Yeah, you'd find a way. Along the way, you'd find a way.
You find it as you go. And, there's going to be ups and downs, of course. And as you know, those what looks like a stumbling block, that could be a stepping stone in any case. So you just have to look at everything with the same view, positive view, in terms of your ultimate objective in going through life. We don't know all the answers at any one point in time, but we stay the course in the process, and it'll be revealed to us.
Indeed.
And that was instilled in me. If I go all the way back to when I was a child, growing up in the Treme, within the New Orleans public school system, right? And the source of that was my parents.
That's
no
right.
question.
The parents and the drive that you had and your curiosity
Yes.
to continue with this.
That's good. Thank you.
So your curiosity and the degrees, of course, led you to NASA. You worked at NASA with Alabama A&M University, SWAC love, I'll say right now, between Southern and Alabama A&M. And so that was your first outing. What was that like?
Fantastic. I don't use it lightly, that term. Okay, having left Cornell, graduated from Cornell, and my first job was at the Oak Ridge National Laboratory, basically as a nuclear scientist. And that was great. But there was always the question of recognizing so many people who helped me to get there. So the idea of what do you do to prepare the next generation stood before me. Certainly Sandra and I had a family by that time, and we have our own children. But what do you do beyond that? My sense was that I had a responsibility to contribute, to their future in the same way that people contributed and invested in me. And so that led me to Alabama A&M University. I had been recruited, but now there was an opportunity there to go into another area of study, education, at the undergraduate level first. But the idea is that students would come by and come through my classroom and my office hours. And I had an obligation to show them the opportunities that were really available to them, the same type of opportunities that help guide me, if not propel me, to my current status in terms of my profession. So what was it like? It was a tremendous growth period for me, a way to make contributions to young people.
Sure.
And that was the beginning of my my activities within academia, and it stayed there ever since, up until the time that I retired.
So that opened a whole new door for you. You went from being curious to now saying, I need to teach others how to be curious and explore and discover and learn.
Yes, to realize just the beauty of inquiry and discovery. And it's not so far-flung from what they might think. As is to say, it's closer than you might think. Yes.
Oh, yeah. You taught me some things today already. Prior to us getting together to have this conversation, we learned some really important science things, even when I said, science isn't my thing, and I don't get that. But you said, I'm not gonna let you off that easy.
No. No, it's well, again, I go back to my parents and members of my family who encouraged me to pursue. So if it happened for me, it can happen to anybody else. I'm sure of it. Okay. Indeed. I always carried that knowledge with me and that enthusiasm for turning on the light bulb, so to speak, with my students. So, once you do that, you instill in them an intrinsic drive to go forward and do great things.
That's right. That is so right. So, you went on to become the first African American faculty member in the College of Engineering at Cornell University. You blazed the path, you blazed the trail, you did something that no one else had done prior to that at Cornell University. What do you want to tell the next generation of African American scientists?
Never give up. Always keep your focus on the things that matter to you. Okay, in their case, find out where your interests are, and to pursue it aggressively. Okay, and it's going to be challenging from time to time. This is what I want to say, okay?
Acknowledge the challenges. Acknowledge the challenges, that there will be challenges.
Oh yeah, there'll be challenges. The challenges are a good thing. That's another thing where you can just step to the next level, as it turns out. And so be not dismayed, but indeed always keep your focus on your interests. Keep your focus on your self-development. Really what it comes down to, and what I'm saying right now, is that we all have a God-given purpose.
Indeed.
And when you, in a key item in everybody's life is to find what that purpose is, and you will be successful at it. Okay, no, it won't be easy all the time, but that's all right. You will, in fact, grow. You will learn, and you'll be in a position then to help someone else with that in that same field, that same arena. Yes.
So let's talk about this facility that we're in today. You call it LIGO. Actually, we call it LIGO, but you call it the Laser Interferometer Gravitational Wave Observatory. Get that right. I want to get that right.
Yeah, you have it right.
I had it right. It was, I want to say it correctly. But it's the Laser Interferometer Gravitational Wave Observatory.
Right.
Got it right that time.
Okay.
So that's what you call it.
Right.
And you say that this is your life's greatest achievement. And that's saying a lot for you, Dr. McGuire, because you've achieved so much. So tell us more about that.
Okay, let me start off with the following, if I could. Laser Interferometer Gravitational Wave Observatory. Laser interferometry, okay, this is a well-known technique which is used to detect directly a phenomenon that was predicted by Einstein called gravitational radiation. That is the form of gravitational waves. And we do that within a facility that houses all of the equipment, the offices, and the people that form our observatory. So that's the building itself. So Laser Interferometer Gravitational Wave Observatory, it's a forefront physics experiment. It's very exciting. And you can sort of break down the words in those terms. And you asked me something specific. What was that not again?
Why is this your life's greatest achievement? Why do you, why do you say that this is your life's greatest achievement?
Oh, because the challenge associated, first of all, the physics, okay?
Physics himself.
Right. I mean, now I'm an experimentalist, like I'm a nuclear physicist. And what I do is design and develop experimental apparatus to test theories. Now, on the one hand, I don't have a background, a firm background, so you might see a broad background in general relativity. On the other hand, the challenge to indeed build a facility that can indeed place the test on this idea, that was very appealing to me from a professional standpoint, okay? And next, such a facility will provide opportunities for the next generation to be part of a forefront physics experiment, forefront activity that can really embellish their own development. Everybody may not go into general relativity experiment, right? Okay, however, the basic principles of performing a test on an idea experimentally can mean a lot to students in terms of their understanding, okay, of how science is done. So this was a great opportunity. There was an imperative for me to begin to, it was a big challenge for me, but there was an imperative that came along with that challenge, no question about it. It was just too much to be gained from it. The possibilities were too great. Okay, so yes, there were challenges, but boy, the possibilities outweighed that by far.
And this facility has grown since its inception. It's not just what it started off being, but it has expanded to be so much more.
Oh, I remember when in the collaboration, the scientists working on the experiment when I got here, it was about 200 people or so, okay, 250 I get at most, Nowadays you have well over 1,000 scientists working on this experiment worldwide. Okay?
Incredible.
Yeah. So it's so the interest is definitely there, and the possibilities are really outstanding. It's really, really incredible. So it's gratifying to see an idea succeed not only in the science, but also in the science education, what is commonly called also outreach, where you take that capability and you, in fact, propagate it to a part of the population that otherwise might not have access to it.
Sure.
And it was all happening in my home state of Louisiana. That was a compelling argument for me to come home and try to become involved in this experiment. Yeah.
So speaking of home, I'll go back to college. It was during your time at Southern University that you met the love of your life, Sandra McGuire. We're excited because we got a chance to celebrate you and Sandra together for this award, and we'll be talking to her more a little bit later. But since that time, you all have 2 daughters, 4 grandchildren, over 50 years of marriage. I've been around you, and you all act as if you're still dating. So tell me, what is the secret here to this wonderful married life?
Well, it's Sandra and I came from different parts of Louisiana. Okay, that's fine. I'm from New Orleans. She's from Scotlandville, of course. But there were some common factors in there. Okay, so we both show up at Southern University as freshmen. And we both have similar values for family life.
Both come from large families.
Okay, I had 8 in my family. She had 4 children.
Okay.
Children. Okay, but you're right. Her father in particular came from a large family. Okay, so that same dynamic was there. Okay, where you can indeed see many different personalities in one place, but all having some common interests in the process. So there was a lot of overlap there from the beginning. I mean, we didn't know this, and the only way you get to know a person is to indeed, spend time with them, of course. And so that happened as a matter of course began in our freshman year and just continued.
So you have 2 daughters, 4 grandchildren, as we said before, and your daughters are equally successful and doing great things. How has your family life impacted your success?
Confirmation. You see, not everybody had an interest in science like I did growing up. All I knew is that what I enjoyed.
Yeah.
Okay. And fortunately, along the way, I had a physics teacher in high school for whom that was, I would say, not just all right, but that was a great thing. And so she took an interest in me, right? The upside of it all is that, people were different, and they have different interests. They have different capabilities. They have different purposes. And the key issue is to let that individual help that child find their God-given purpose in life. Once they find that, okay, they're going to take off, in terms of their own development there. So, okay, one of our daughters is a physician. Okay, she directs a program at Baylor University. There. The other one, on the one hand, I saw her as being talented in one area. She was talented in several areas, and the one she chose is not necessarily the one that I saw the potential in. There's this aspect of it too. As a father, as a parent, you want to make sure that your children can stand on their own.
Of course.
Yeah, sure. Independence, to be able to, in fact, function. When you go on in a way that will be just reflective of their interest, but also solidify their foundation in life. I'll say it that way. And the second one had a tremendous talent for a number of things, but certainly in uh, in opera, in performing arts.
That's right.
Okay, and so that's what she really wanted to do. Okay, and so she does some work nowadays that relies upon the fact that she has a PhD from Oxford University, okay, in neuroscience, and it relies upon that. But if you were to ask me what is her passion, what is her heart, it's the performing arts. No question about it, okay? And that's been the case as long as I can remember. I'll be honest with you. I can tell you, I can keep you in here with lots of stories about Carla
Right.
and Stephanie.
Yeah. So, Dr. McGuire, is there anything you would do differently in your life
Oh, no.
of all that you've achieved?
No.
Love it.
No, really, no. Good, the bad, the not so good as you see it at that time, but it all helps to build you. You have to look at that. It's like in my own work. You have to look at that failure. You have to look at that success with the same face
Yeah.
and say, what could I have done better?
It all works together for the good.
Look what you just said. That's right. That's right. You have to have that faith. Yeah.
So, last question. What's next? What's next for you, Dr. McGuire?
As you probably know, I've retired, but I still stay active in my research work to an extent. And the main thing I'm doing right now is writing my history of what happened to me over this period. Okay, so I have to do that. I have to write my own.
You had many firsts, so that's a lot to write about.
I'll do the best I can. I'm working with, as they say, just just have faith I can actually complete it all. And at this point, I don't really know what complete means, but I know I'm going to give it a try. That's for sure. But I think that's very important to put down, in writing somewhere, because the memories are feeble and people have different recollections. That's true. That is so true. Because it's part of it. I can sit here and tell you stories about, what happened, things that happened to me growing up. That, I didn't see the full impact of them at the time. Let me put it that way. But I'm glad that they happened.
Yeah.
Okay, right. So, so that's what I see myself doing going forward. Okay, there's a few things I still would like to do and try out in the laboratory. No question about that. Okay, but the human nature part of it, the human development part of it, certainly is taking center stage right now.
I love it. I love it. Dr. Stephen McGuire, thank you. Thank you for allowing us this time to talk with you and to be at this amazing facility out here at LIGO Livingston. I encourage everyone to come out and visit this place if they haven't seen it already. They definitely have to come out and visit with you.
I think so. I would encourage it thoroughly.
All right. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. You're most welcome. Thank you for having me.
For a copy of this program, call 1-800-973-7246 or go online to www.lpb.org.